Spoiler season is upon us. We now know how dual ink cards will work. We got our first look at the new lore cards, and the Aristocats are joining Disney Lorcana. Are you ready? Let's take a look. What's up, Illuminators? It's Charlie and Amethyst back, and yes, we are now in spoiler season. We've got a few short weeks until the release of ARCHAZIA'S Island, so the information is going to be coming thick and fast. The big news story of the day, though, is that we got confirmation of how dual ink cards will be working. We'll be covering that along with a huge number of card reveals, including dual ink cards, so it's really exciting to look at.
Almost 40 cards to look at together. Yeah. And also stay tuned to the end of this video to find out where you can find a full list of all of the content creators that will be revealing cards very soon as well.
And spoiler alert, there won't be any from us, unfortunately.
Just before we get to all the card reviews, which I'm sure you're all very excited about, there's another thing that got announced today that personally, I love it. So this is called lore cards. So it was confirmed by the Disney Lorcana team today. The lore cards, which I believe are 20 in total, will be available within each booster pack of ARCHAZIA'S Island. Players and collectors will find a lore card, each representing a page of the story of the exciting adventure of the set. We can't tell for sure if each pack will have both a lore card and a puzzle piece, because I'm just basing on the image it got shared, as you can see on the screen. But perhaps some of those, instead of having the text, would be just the illustration. If I had to guess, I think it's two. Puzzle piece and the lore card.
Since there are 20, do you think if you buy a booster box, you'll be able to get one of each, or you'll have to buy multiple?
I think you're probably going to need a case. A lot of people have a hard time just completing a puzzle piece. Imagine like this. But we'll know more soon. We love what we're seeing. We love that they're expanding more in the story. And I think finally making usage of what comes in the pack is very, very exciting. So more on that very soon.
But of course, let's waste no more time and talk about dual ink cards. So it was confirmed via the gamer today that dual ink cards can only be allowed in decks that contain both ink colors. So if you want to use the Belle card that was a Ruby Sapphire dual ink glimmer, she will need to be in a deck that contains Ruby Sapphire cards. I think this is kind of what we were expecting, mainly because of the way the ink restrictions work in Disney Lorcana. I think it would also be maybe too powerful if those types of cards could be allowed in any deck with one of those two colors.
We talk about that in the previous video when we talk about ARCHAZIA'S Island. We go in more details, but as Charlie's saying, I think it would be so hard. As a designer, we know it would be so hard to balance something that extent if you could use any of those cards as one color or another, combined to others. I would recommend that I'm gonna link down to the description of this video the full article from the gamer. They released 2 articles where they talk with the team and they actually explain the thought process, which is very interesting because they started with the freeform approach where you could combine to anything with those 2 cards, and they quickly realized that it could be problematic on the long term. So it makes sense. I think it does help empowering some archetypes that some players might not have tried. So if they want to use a card now, they're kind of not forced. I don't want to use the word forced, but it's pushing you towards something new. And I think that's always very interesting. It comes down to the cards as well, right? How powerful those are. And let's look at those.
Let's look at those. So we're going to start with Bolt. And as you'll see from the screen, we have updated the tracker slightly. We're going to be containing all of the dual ink cards in their own category, which is maybe what we'll be doing with our binders as well to make our lives easier.
It might have to be, or we'll follow the numbers. We'll decide that later.
But we're making some assumptions. So we think we know, we're not very good at maths. We think we know there are 15 potential ink color combinations. The only way you can really make sure that the colors are split in a way that's equal between different ink colors is to have 4 of those dual ink colors for each combination. Long story short, that means 60 dual ink cards. We've already seen 3 in Amethyst Steel, so that seems to jive, and it means that then each other individual ink color will have the same amount of cards. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. You're seeing the tracker. We're assuming there's 24 of each individual color card on its own. Plus, as Charlie said, 60 of those combined. So we're grouping different parts just to make more sense.
But if that changes, we'll update the tracker.
Of course, don't rely 100% on that. It's just trying to do the mathematics, and that's not our forte.
Our assumptions. So
let's start with Bolt.
Yeah, let's talk about Bolt. He's over here above my shoulder. This way, sorry, the mirror's confusing.
And he's also here on the screen.
And he's also here on the screen. So we have Bolt Superdog. This was the card I think that tipped us off that dual ink colors were going to be a thing. He's a 5-cost inkable, a 3/5 that quest for 2, Floodborn, so he can shift in at 3, and he has 2 abilities. The first one is Mark of Power. Whenever you ready this character, gain 1 lore for each undamaged character you have in play, and he has Bolt, Stare, Exert, Banish Chosen Illusion character. So I think the second ability, the Bolt Stare, maybe not as relevant. It depends if we see a very illusion heavy metagame, but the first ability I think is actually quite cool. We've seen like Steel Fasa decks using Mufasa I think Bolt could for sure fit into there. I don't think he fits into like a Steel Song list, but maybe something like Diggy Diggy Hall as well. He could be a good addition there where you really have a lot of characters on the board. He's very similar to Christopher Robin, which is a card from set 2 that I really loved, but I just think wasn't viable because, you know, he wasn't a Floodborn. It was just so difficult to set up his ability. But Bolt, as long as you have one undamaged character that isn't Bolt, then you're going to be getting a Law. And of course, there are other ways to ready him. It's not just at the start of your turn. You could also use a card like Sven to ready him as well and gain the Law that way. So I think there's a lot of interesting avenues to explore with Bolt.
There's 3 things I want to talk about here, actually, super quick, if I may. So another assumption, but she chose illusion character. I have the feeling that with the next set coming up, we're going to get a new Illuminator's Quest, and we think with Jafar being that in the same way that Ursula was. And if I had to guess, I think all the character cards Jafar will want are illusion. So I can see this card being one of those that you use to banish.
I'm not sure about that. Because the Entangled Glimmers were like their own thing, right?
Yes.
I don't know if they would reuse a mechanic. I think they might have like a Mirage, which is like an illusion, but just for the quest. But that's just my thoughts.
We'll see. Let us know down below. But I can see this being one of those cards, the same way that we use Mother Gothel against Ursula to try to contour the situation. Yeah. But that's for the future. Other thing here, as Charlie said, is very important to note that we're talking about undamaged characters that you won, right? This effect takes place for the ones you won. Yeah. And finally, my last point is this is a super rare. It raises us questions again about the quantity of super rare you have within single color or dual wing colors. Yeah. Yeah. Same for legendary. Do we gonna ever have a legendary there? Let's stay tuned and we'll find out more, but I'm very curious about that.
Yes. And then the next Dual Ink card, also in Amber Steel. I absolutely love this card. The art is just incredible. So this is the Troubadour, musical narrator, 2-cost inkable, 1/3 that quest for 1. He is resist +1, and he's also a singer 4. So I think this is a really good example where they're kind of combining characteristics of the 2 ink colors. It's got the singer, which is uniquely amber, and it has resist, which is more associated with Steel Sapphire, combined together into one fantastic card. As a Steel Song player, I did just win a set championship this weekend with Steel Song. This card is absolutely amazing, very similar to Ursula Vanessa, because she's a 1/4. It's kind of an interesting one whether this is better than Vanessa or not. I think in general the resist makes the stats better. We've seen this with like the 1/2 Mickey. It becomes a lot more difficult for you to remove him because, you know, you've got to sink that little bit of extra damage. I think the downside, though, is anyone who's played Steel Song will know that often you will swing your Ursula into like a Calhoun or something to put 3 damage on her to then heal with Rapunzel. The Troubadour, of course, you're not going to be able to get the same amount of heals off him. So the secondary function of getting the Rapunzel heals, you maybe lose, but I think you get that at the expense of a character that's going to stick to the board for longer.
Would you split like the quantity 2/2 if you're running for Ursula's, just to have the 2 priority?
I don't know. I think I'd want to try just fully replacing Ursula with the Troubadour, see if I miss the heals, but...
Because you do rely a lot on Rapunzel, right? That is your strategy, and then with 4 on Ursula, she does take a lot to allow you to do that.
You can get the full 3 damage on her quite easily.
Is this from the 3 Musketeers?
This is the 3 Musketeers. Okay. I believe this is the 3 Musketeers. We need to rewatch it.
Yes. Beautiful art from Carmine Pucci, so... Thank you. I'm just blown away. Yes, and I'm gonna be saying that a lot in this set because the art is just out of this.
You can already say it for this one. This is Pascal Guardian Chameleon, 4-cost, uninkable, 3/3, questing for 3, evasive. Again, the art on this, the art on this is absolutely incredible. Perfect for your Amber Amethyst aggro deck, Matthias, I think. But yeah, in terms of stats, like he's actually a fairly good evasive in the 4-cost slot. Yes, he's uninkable. But like you compare him to Markowski, he was inkable, but he was a 3/2 questing for 2. So Pascal is quite a big upgrade on that if you can find the space in your deck with the uninkable slots.
I was about to say that because it is good, but if you're putting exactly in the hyper aggro play right now, I'm already struggling with an inkables. That's another one.
And it is a 4-cost, so it's a little bit later, but
I could replace for some other. Well, I don't know.
Matthias is building his deck.
I just want Pascal in my deck because this card is so beautiful.
It's so cute. It's gonna be a monster in sealed and draft.
It will. That's like the way that Markowski was.
Yeah. He is going to be the one you want to grab, I think, if you see him when he comes out. Another card that fits nicely into some aggro decks is Lady Miss Park Avenue, a 5-cost uninkable 4/4 questing for 2. And I think I should be saying which ink colors they're combining. So this is an Amber Emerald ink color. Lady is a Floodborn, so she will shift in at 3, and she has the ability Something Wonderful. When you play this character, you may return up to 2 character cards with cost 2 or less, each from your discard to your hand. So we've seen that kind of Amber Emerald aggro deck. I think Clara was playing it at the most recent DLC, so it is definitely a color combination that already has legs, but I think Lady does give it quite a nice boost. She can bring things back like Dizzy Duck Donald's Date, she can bring back the Cursed Merfolk, and we're going to see later there is actually a very nice shift target for Lady as well.
Yes.
So I am quite excited about this card.
What is interesting is with some of those examples of the dual ink, you can see clearly where those colors are coming from, the elements or archetypes from those. This one I struggle a little bit more. Yes, of course, you could bring back a Cursed Merfolk, which is Emerald.
Yeah.
It makes sense for that type of combination in the deck. Maybe more aggro related, as you said.
But you kind of...
but it's not. There isn't much of Emerald there.
Yeah, that mechanic of bringing characters back is very, very amber. Like we already saw with Perdita.
Yeah.
Pretty much the same thing. So it is like, should this have been a dual ink? But I mean, I'll reserve judgment.
I think it's literally just for that one deck.
I think so,
thinking, and it's cool. It works. But there are better examples, as we said, and we'll see more.
Yeah. And then another amber emerald dual ink card. We have Perla, Nimble Seamstress, a 3-cost inkable, 3/2 that quest for 1. She is evasive, and she also has the support. So we're seeing evasive, which is something we see in Emerald, and we're seeing support, which is something we see in Amber. So I think this is an okay card.
It's funny because we always complain about support, but when it's support with evasive, I start enjoying more.
That's true. That is true. That does make it a bit better.
So that's why they created dual wink.
And an Amber Ruby card now. This is Calhoun, Courageous Rescuer, a 6-cost inkable, 5/5 that quest for 2. She is a Floodborn, so she'll shift in for 4, and she has the ability back to your start positions. When this character challenges another character, you may return a racer character card from your discard to your hand. So returning from the discard, Amber, the racer archetype, and doing something based on challenging, very much Ruby. So who are you likely to bring back with this? I think it's kind of a niche card.
There's some racers on the vanilla
side. I think
the rush one.
The rush one potentially, because often you'll kind of swing her into something and she'll be banished, and then you might want to bring her back. But I think this is a very, very niche card. Like, you've got to really be building that racer deck, and I don't know. Yeah, so I suspect we'll be seeing some shift targets for Calhoun, probably some cheaper Calhouns this set, because currently we only have one, and she's in steel.
That's true.
So yeah, look out for those. And now we see our first dual ink action. This is an Amber Sapphire dual ink card. Restoring the Heart, a 1-cost inkable action. Remove up to 3 damage from chosen character or location. Draw a card. So we've seen healing archetypes being kind of suggested, right, with Grandpappy. A little bit more support for this, but I don't know.
Why is this Sapphire and not Amethyst?
Well, Sapphire has a lot of healing, right? So like the Jasmine that heals on play,
the whole
Amber has healing and drawing. So you can see how.
As soon as I saw draw, I was imagining more Amethyst. But you're right. We have Baymax and all the other.
Yeah, we have Baymax. We have Rapunzel. So it makes sense.
And obviously that's a reference to Amoana.
It is. So the next card is the first of 3 Amethyst Steel dual ink glimmers. This is Jafar, newly crowned, a 4-cost inkable, a 2/4 that quest for 2 with the ability. This is not done yet. During an opponent's turn, whenever one of your illusion characters is banished, you may return that card to your hand. So we're going to be looking more at the illusion cards as we go, but this is very much support for that archetype. So far, every illusion card has been an Amethyst Glimmer or an Amethyst Steel Glimmer, so it seems like in the same way we have the bounce package, and maybe that the illusion characters are going to be kind of finding themselves a home in Amethyst.
And we talked about this one in the previous news when we first saw the new mechanic, right, with illusion and so on, and vanishing. It's interesting because that's kind of like similar to the Mickey and the Brooms, right, back on set 1, right? Yeah. But all based on illusions. Also another super rare, which is interesting as well. We're losing a lot of super rares for Dual Wing. Yeah. We'll see.
And then in the same color combination, I think a card that actually a lot of people are very excited about for a lot of reasons. So this is Giant Cobra, Ghostly Serpent, a 3-cost inkable, 4/4 that quest for 1. Because they're an illusion, they have the Vanish ability, and they also have Mysterious Advantage. When you play this character, you may choose and discard a card to gain 2 lore. So I think it's that, well, first of all, the stats are incredible. Yeah. A 4/4 for 3 is great. Inkable. Yes. Of course, they have the downside that they can be banished with an action, but being able to gain 2 lore on play is pretty great. You can dump a card that's just clogging up your hand, like an uninkable card you're not going to use, a tech card that maybe you don't really need in this matchup, or even just to close a game, you could throw something out just to get that 2 lore. We know how powerful that is. It is a similar in the sense of discarding to gain lore as Madam Mim, truly marvelous, we saw from the previous set. I don't think she was a great card. She definitely saw no play, but this is an inkable card, and it's an effect you get on play.
There is one more advantage, and don't forget that we can also bounce this.
You can bounce it,
You can keep bouncing and getting as far as you can. Just because we're seeing the keyword vanish again, and the last time we talked about that was in the previous video, I just want to highlight again. How this works is you're not banishing the opponent. Who is getting banished is yourself, is this card.
Character,
so all it means is you could literally play a 1-cost action, whatever that is.
Like good job, right?
Good job, yeah. And that will banish this card, right? So it's more that element. That's why it's a weakness. But at the same time, it comes with high stats.
Yeah.
So there's a good balance.
So I think this is definitely a card to watch. If you can get your foils of this one early, get them, because I'm sure this is a good
That's true. That's a really good point. At least it's an uncommon.
Yeah.
But it's going to be like Diablo. It's going to cost at least $10.
Yeah. And then the third of the Amethyst Steel Jewel in Glimmers, we have Mufasa Among the Stars, a 7-cost inkable, 5/7 that quest for 2. He is a Floodborn, so he'll shift in at 5. He's evasive, and he's also got resist +1, so he's got a lot going on for him. He's a very big boy. He's going to be very, very difficult to remove from the board. So, yeah, we'll have to see, because I think the downside right now is there are no good shift targets for him, so you are often going to end up having to play the full 7 ink.
They're probably going to announce, right?
I'm sure,
for the set, but I'm struggling seeing I'm sure I'm gonna be wrong, but I don't see, because I know you got very excited when you saw the card because of the stuff. I think it's the evasive part plus the resist.
I think if you can play him on 5, like
it's a strong card at 5, for sure.
But like Ruby, okay, they'll be able to remove him, but like he dodges
pretty much everything, right?
He dodges steel removal.
You can put a ice block, you will still not banish him because it's a 5 and it goes a 4, and it's
And because he's evasive, you often can't rely on challenging unless you yourself have strong evasives, but you need to do 8 damage to him because of the resist, or you need to do multiple damage over multiple turns. So I think in the right deck against the right deck, he will be quite difficult to get off the board, which is going to be a struggle for a lot of decks.
And he's definitely a better version than the other Mufasa, right? The champion of Pride Lands.
Yeah. Well, I think champion of Pride Lands is maybe the best shift target you have right now. So let's wait for some cheaper steel or amethyst Mufasas to come along.
Yeah.
Okay, moving over. So we have another dual ink action. This one is an Emerald Sapphire. It was revealed by the Gamer in their article, so they talk about this one in detail. It's a 3-cost uninkable action, and it's very, very interesting.
Ink Geyser.
Ink Geyser. Did I not say the name?
No.
Ink Geyser. There you go. Each player exerts all cards in their inkwell. Then each player with more than 3 cards in their inkwell returns cards at random from their inkwell to their hand until they have 3 cards in their inkwell. So it is a bit of a mouthful, but basically it is something that people have talked about for a while, which is the concept of ink destruction. So ink that's in your inkwell that you can't interact with normally can be returned to your hand.
We guessed that, remember?
We did.
But we thought it would be the other franchise. The Notre Dame.
Yeah, Hunchback of Notre Dame. So this is a very good disruption tool. It's kind of decks that are ramping, so like a Ruby Sapphire that gets to a lot of ink really quickly. This is where you can kind of slow them down a little bit. Potentially, it's definitely an interesting card. I don't know, like it's a card you have to build around, like that's for sure. Yeah, I'll be really curious to see what people build out of this, because so you could set up board states where you play your Mufasa, the next turn you then play this, and it makes it very, very difficult for your opponent to then get rid of Mufasa, and then you can be getting huge value out of much lower ink than you normally would.
I do have a question, because I'm looking at what the card does, right? The first sentence, each player exerts all their cards in their inkwell.
Yeah.
Is that more to punish the player that is playing? Because that's the only moment that...
Yeah, I think it's just encouraging you, because it's kind of like Mufasa, right? You play him and it exerts all the ink in your inkwell. It's just meaning you have to use the ink you want to use, and then you use your last 3 ink to play.
But that's what I mean, because it doesn't affect the other players.
Exactly, yeah.
Right, it doesn't matter, because it's like each player, I think it's more to punish it's kind of to put in a position, if you really want to play that, you have to really think beforehand, right? And another thing that I found interesting is, it is a dual ink card. It is interesting that this is in this color combination, because you almost want to use that against the color combination, or against Sapphire specifically. So you're almost playing Sapphire to disrupt Sapphire.
But I think it's because Sapphire interacts with the inkwell, and that's...
I know, but I want something to stop Sapphire without playing Sapphire. But yeah, we're getting there.
So there you go. Very interesting.
I love this card.
One to watch, yeah. Next, we have Yokai, Intellectual Schemer, also in Emerald Sapphire. He's a 2-cost inkable 1/2 that quests for 1. With the ability Innovate, you pay 1 less to play characters using their shift ability. So yeah, adds a nice little bit of utility for this type of color combination if you wanted to do it. Maybe this is the color combination that is going to see the Inventor archetype actually become like a viable deck, potentially being able to play some of those characters a bit cheaper helps with the ramping.
So I'm looking at the lore. In the hands of the lesser person, this much power would be responsible. I'm trying to see what he's looking at. Yokai, I don't know if that's a Baymax in a gigantic
It looks like
arm
a
suit,
yeah.
or if it is Arcasia in an arm suit. I don't know. But we're seeing the big scroll, because the scroll is everywhere in the marketing materials for Archazia's Island.
Okay.
I'm curious. Maybe that means future technology or something.
Yeah, it does seem like the runes are very like owl
Exactly.
looking, so that is
We'll see
interesting.
that.
A little bit of lore. Next, so this is in another dual ink card. This is in Emerald Ruby. This is the Mad Hatter Unruly Eccentric, a 6-cost inkable 3/5 questing for 2, with the ability Unbirthday Present. Whenever a damaged character challenges another character, you may draw a card. So at first when I saw this, it reminded me a lot of Scar Vengeful Lion, whose ability allows whenever one of your characters challenges a damaged character, you may draw a card. This kind of flips it on its head, which is funny for the Mad Hatter. And it's any time, so it's one of your characters challenging, one of your damaged characters challenging your opponent, and vice versa, you get to draw a card. So that's quite interesting. We've seen this a little bit already in Emerald, where you're kind of getting to do things potentially on your opponent's turn. And
I suppose the Ruby part is the damage.
Yeah,
If we're
Ruby
thinking on
kind of
the
trying to
archetypes. Okay.
normally Emerald cares about your opponent's characters being
Yeah.
damaged. This seems to more be
So it makes a little bit of both, and then you get to draw a card as well. I love this art so much.
Yeah, I
So
think this
much.
art's really cool. I think the card's actually interesting. I could see it being good in sealed formats and limited formats.
It's a very
just as
late
way
card, though.
to get some card draw.
unfortunately.
Yeah,
'Cause
but the fact you could play it, and then if your opponent has damaged characters, then that you're kind of immediately drawing unless
That's
they
true,
they
yeah.
banish the Mad Hatter first. So
this is the same art they use for the booster pack, but in the booster
Yes.
pack, Mad Hatter is looking at you. In this one, he looks up front. So it's funny.
that is interesting. Unless we're going to see another card, maybe.
No, it's the same
Oh,
art.
it is
Trust
the-
me. They probably just wanted them to connect to the public buying the cards.
Yeah. And now in Emerald Steel, we have Mr. Smee, a fishing captain, a 3-cost uninkable 3/3 that quests for 1, with the ability Pipe Up the Crew. Whenever you play an action that isn't a song, you may ready chosen pirate characters. So more support for Emerald Steel pirates. I think they had some of the most interesting cards, as I'd see, in the emerald color for pirates, but there wasn't really much support for them at the time. So Mr. Smee can fit into one of those decks if you chose to, so you could get some more value out of Captain Hook, underhanded.
And
things
the
like that.
other Mr. Smee, right?
And
you can
the other
ready the
Mr.
other
Smee,
Mr. Smee.
exactly. So a little bit more support for Emerald Steel pirate decks out there.
He's a captain, though. That's interesting. So he can protect the other Mr. Smee anyway.
That's true, yeah. That would be funny, actually. Him protecting Mr. Smee. And then next over in Amethyst Ruby, we have Hades Fastalker, a 6-cost uninkable 4/6 that quests for 2, with the ability For Just a Little Pain. When you play this character, you may deal 2 damage to another chosen character of yours to banish chosen character with cost 3 or less. And for me, this is another example of a card that feels very Ruby and not very Amethyst. Of course, in Ruby, we have a lot of cards that are about dealing damage, such as Teeth and Ambition. And it's also an in color that is very concerned with just banishing characters outright, usually based on low strength. So it feels very Ruby and not very Amethyst. Do you think this will see play in a Ruby Amethyst deck?
So it's funny enough, I see a lot of people comparing her to Medusa, even though it's not the same.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is cost, this is not strength.
Yeah.
People are saying this is a better Medusa. I don't see it yet. I actually don't see it yet. But
Yeah.
I'll be all for that because Hades always gets the worst cards, apart from the first set, I think.
This definitely feels more playable than the legendary Hades from the last
Oh,
set.
anything is more playable than the legendary.
But yeah, I
Hades.
think it's the 3 cost or less. It's like, is it that much of an advantage to be
Yeah.
dealing that 2 damage?
It's usually not stronger characters anyway at that point, right?
Yeah.
I wish it was 3 strength or less.
Yeah, so then you could still get something like rid of a Robin Hood in the
Yeah.
same way Medusa can.
Yeah.
And the other thing to mention that this does require you to deal 2 damage to another chosen
Yeah, of
character,
course,
so you
yeah.
need a character in play in order to be able to trigger Hades' ability.
You cannot
whereas-
you cannot damage your own Hades. So that's the problem. As Charlie
Exactly,
said,
yeah. So unlike Medusa, who's kind of works alone, or Tremaine, who works alone, he does require a little bit of extra bodies on the board to trigger
Yes.
it.
I love this art though,
art is
which is a
amazing,
good
yeah.
surprise again. Sorry, I'm just being very picky with Hades. I love this one.
Yeah, I know. I feel the same way. So next, an Amethyst Sapphire, Jewel in Glimmer. This is Sven, Keen-Eyed Reindeer. It's a hard one to say. A 5-cost inkable, a 2/6 that quest for 1. He has Rush, and he also has the ability Formidable Glare. When you play this character, chosen character gets -3 strength this turn. Very much a combination of the 2 ink colors there. Whether he's going to be that good of a card, I think it's nice being able to reduce the strength for sure. But the fact that Sven himself only has 2 strength may mean that he can't really take out the targets as well as maybe we'd hope. So
I think it's how you slot that as well, because would you replace him for the new Elsa as well?
That's the thing. I think Elsa, even though she has very similar stats, the fact that she can exert a character, I mean, one of the things we've seen is that often you'll exert a character to then challenge with a different character, whilst Elsa takes out something smaller. So even though she does have that low strength, it doesn't become much of a downside. Sven, maybe he's protecting your characters, but I don't know. I just don't think it's as strong. I don't think it'll see as much play.
I'm gonna say though, this is my favorite Sven card so far.
Really?
Like it's art, and I think even game. It is interesting. The concept is very.
It is very interesting, and maybe I'll be wrong. So over in Amethyst Emerald, we have Cusco Panicked Llama. He's a 4-cost, an inkable, 2/2 that quests for 2. He's evasive, and he has the ability We Can Figure This Out. At the start of your turn, choose one. Either each player draws a card, or each player chooses and discards a card. So another interesting one. I think the biggest downside to Cusco is, well, he is very easy to banish with only 2 willpower there. He's a 4-cost uninkable, so he is a little bit later. So often he will be removed before you have a chance to maybe make use of his ability. I guess maybe there's the hope that your opponent might not banish him, because then at least you're getting the potential benefit. Yeah. I think one of the important things to say is this is a start of turn ability. So this happens before the draw step in the ready, set, draw phase. So you will have to make the decision during the set phase whether you want to draw the card or force a discard.
Before even drawing your card for the turn.
Drawing your card for the turn. So remember that. That's going to, I'm sure, trip a lot of people up when they play with this card. It's similar to Camille Madrigal Prankster, who also has a start of turn ability. And we played a Madrigal deck, and Matthias kept forgetting that it had to happen during the set.
But it's the same with the new Lilo as well. It's artist,
exactly.
So it's also the start of a turn. What is interesting here, very important as well, it's not a May ability. If he's on the board, you're gonna have to make the decision.
Oh, that's
right.
Very
so that's
true.
another part of that. So keep that in mind. Very clear again. It's very purple. Green, so very Amethyst Emerald. We have the drawing part, we have the discard part, and it's interesting that it affects everyone, including yourself, right? So I love this card so much.
Yeah, it's really cool. I want to play with this card.
I really want to play with this card. Yeah.
So next, over in Ruby Sapphire, we have Beast Frustrated Designer, a 6-cost, uninkable, 5/5 that quests for 2, with the ability I've Had It. Exert, pay 2, banish 2 of your items, deal 5 damage to chosen character. I'm not really sure how I feel about this card. I think Ruby Sapphire often has more than enough tools to banish characters. They don't really need this kind of clunky ability. Very similar to the action launch that we saw in Sapphire way back in set 2, which, never saw any play. I think banishing 2 of your items, we're going to see the card next, which is Belle, which kind of gets powered up by that, but I don't know, in my head, this doesn't work.
I can't see it at all. It's 6 uninkable. So 6 uninkable. It's not a great card. You have to pay 2 costs. You have to sacrifice 2 items to then do something that you could do with 1 card, right? Yeah. I could be wrong. Let's look at Belle. Maybe the synergy is there.
Belle, So this is Belle in the same color combination. She's also Ruby Sapphire. And she is Mechanic Extraordinaire, a 9-cost inkable, 7/7 that quests for 3. She's a Floodborn, so she can shift in at 7, but she also has the ability Salvage. For each item card in your discard, you may pay 1 less to play this character using her shift ability only. So you will need a Belle on board, but as you can see, Beast would power it up. And then she also has the ability Repurpose. Whenever this character quests, you may put up to 3 item cards from your discard on the bottom of your deck to gain 1 more for each item card moved this way. So a very interesting ability. Again, synergizes very well with the Beast. One of the kind of fun, interesting things about this is Ruby Sapphire can sometimes run out of cards in their deck because they're often drawing and filtering through their deck so often. So this is actually kind of a nice way to maybe prevent yourself from being milled out and running out of cards. I don't know if that'll be her primary function, but some more uninteractive login for Ruby Sapphire. But again, I just feel like there are better cards in combination as it is. I think maybe if you build around Belle and the Beast, it could be interesting.
It is interesting that she's an inventor. I can imagine it's one of those, right? It's one of those keywords. As the game progresses, there might be other synergies that will make her even more beneficial, right? But at the end of the day, if there's a player that can make it work, is a Sapphire player.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we'll see.
And then over in Ruby Steel, we have Denai, Impatient Hunter, a 3-cost inkable, 3/2. He's reckless, and he has resist +2. So another marrying there of the two ink colors. Decent stats, I guess, for a 3-cost. I wish he had Rush. That would be the only. Maybe
That's too much.
Maybe that would be too strong. But I feel like as it is, yeah.
I think it's good.
It's kind of like Calhoun, right? Except it costs 1 more, but it's inkable.
Yeah.
And he can't quest or gain
and
lore.
He doesn't get the lore.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know.
And she resist +2?
She's resist 1.
Yeah, so he's another 1.
So he's an upgrade in that sense, but he's a downgrade in the fact that he isn't going to be getting you any lore.
I do think he's gonna see play. We'll see.
Yeah, but I love the look of this card, like the color, the lighting is amazing. Yeah. And the last dual ink card we're going to be looking at is a character I really wanted in Lorcana for a long time. Yes. We got Markowski before we got Lady Cluck, Protective Confidant. She is a Sapphire Steel dual ink glimmer. She's a 5-cost inkable, 2/7 that quest for 1. She is bodyguard, but she also has ward, which I think is actually very, very interesting. For anyone who's tried out the Sapphire Steel aggro deck, you know one of the most optimal plays you can make is using Alice to give Pluto ward, because then it makes it that much more difficult to remove him. So Lady Cluck gets
for free.
Benefit from that. I saw people online saying, is she kind of like a worse Genpo? But I think actually the ward really gives her the advantage, because it makes her less easy to remove. You will have to smash a number of characters into her. If you have a Cogsworth on board, so she's getting resist, then she becomes difficult to remove. You can't brawl her. She is weak to Sisu. If you play Sisu, she will be removed. But she is safe from Kogo to Mago. Even though she has that 7 willpower, the ward means that your opponent won't be able to select the damage on her.
That is a good point. I was thinking
she has so much going for her. Like, I'm actually very, very excited to try out this card, and I think
she's so pretty.
It's actually a really cool
I love
card.
her. Mariana Moreno, this is amazing. Yes.
Yeah, I love seeing Lady Cluck. So that's all the dual ink cards we have for this video. So let's update the tracker, and you'll see those slotting in. And as we said, we are guessing on the 40. Maybe there'll be less, maybe there'll be more, but we'll update the tracker.
And for duo ink as well, we are not putting the right position, because obviously they are belonging all over the place. But bear with us.
And we just want to give a huge shout out to the sponsors of this video, Heavy Play. Heavy Play have their Equip Mag system, which allow you to connect your deck box to your dice box and to your playmat, all with magnets, making it super easy to switch between tables after your games. They also have their amazing curved sleeves with their unique curved corners, which make shuffling a dream and mean that you'll never have a card upside down in your deck when you're playing. Check out heavyplay.com for all of the details on those products, and you can use the code Inkborn10 at checkout in order to get 10% off your order. Thanks once more to Heavy Play for sponsoring this video. All of the details are down in the description. As we said, we're now going to move over to the regular single ink colors. And how many are we showing per set?
I think it's 24. You'll see on the screen. We're still making 24. The mathematics as we finish this video.
And as we said, we'll update it if that's not the case.
Yeah.
But we're going to start off with Mittens, Sassy Street Cat, a new character from Bolt. She's a 5-cost, uninkable 4/5 that quests for 2. She's a bodyguard with the ability, no thanks necessary, once during your turn, whenever a card is put into your inkwell, your other characters with bodyguard get +1 this turn. So yeah, bodyguards, we've seen kind of a little bit of light synergy so far with some of the musketeers. This is a little bit more support for those players wanting to build a bodyguard deck. Oftentimes a lot of bodyguards are they trade being a bodyguard for having slightly worse stats. Often they don't quest for much, or they don't have much strength. So this is a way to bolster those and then get some more value out of it. Yeah.
It is interesting because the first thing that comes to my mind is the synergy in the aggro deck with the Donald deck. Musketeer.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Bodyguard, because he is giving as well on play the +1.
Yeah.
Mittens is giving +1 for being a bodyguard, and there's that whole synergy. But it is an inkable. It is a 5-cost. Yeah. Maybe in a hyper aggro deck it's too late.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll see if this one sees much play. But I'm very happy to see Mittens. I think she's such a great character. And then joining Mittens, we also have Bolt, Dependable Friend, a 4-cost inkable, 2 4-questing for 2 with support. You know, we never get that excited about support cards, but I will always be excited about a Bolt card. So there we go. And then the last card we have in Amber is actually quite an interesting one. This is Spaghetti Dinner, a 2-cost uninkable action with the ability Fine Dining, Exert, pay 1. If you have 2 or more characters in play, you gain 1 law. So definitely some more support for Amber aggro decks, so maybe an Amber Emerald, maybe an Amber Steel, somewhere just to get a little bit of law that your opponent in most cases can't prevent. Very similar to what we saw with the Miracle Candle, which I know some Amber decks were playing around with. This one a little bit easier to pull off because you only need 2 characters, and it's an ability you can use turn after turn after turn. So it could be a good way for those Amber aggro decks to get a little bit more reach to close out some games.
Can I comment on the art and the lighting?
Please.
This is probably one of the most beautiful lighting. It feels so 3D almost, right?
It's the most beautiful bowl of spaghetti I ever saw in my life. I'm
just so hungry right now, but honestly, this is amazing.
And I have a question for you, Matthias. Do you think we're going to see a lady and a tramp card on each side of this card?
Oh my god, yes! We're missing so many continuous art. Yes,
please.
I think so. So. Can we get more, please? So let's now populate those cards on the tracker. It won't look many because it's just a few cards under Umber now, uniquely Umber. But there you go.
Yeah. Okay, so over to Amethyst, and we're going to start out with Raja, Ghostly Tiger, a 2-cost inkable 3/3 that quests for 1. And Raja is an illusion, so they have the Vanish ability, which is kind of compensating for the crazy stats. The stats are very similar to Madam Mim Snake. Madam Mim Snake has the downside of having to return a character to hand. Raja has the downside, in quotation marks.
Downside.
Raja's downside is a little bit more punitive, which is the Vanish, but I think getting those stats on a 2-cost character, very good. There we go, another illusion with very good stats. And then we've also got Iago, Giant Spectral Parrot. This is the card that we saw quite a while ago now. 4-cost, inkable, 4/6, that quests 1. Also an illusion, except he's evasive, but also has that Vanish downside. So yeah, very, very, very good stats. Amazing. I think people are going to be playing some very bad actions in their decks just to be able to select characters like Iago to get him off the board, because again, 4/6, evasive, very difficult to remove otherwise. And that's it for Amethyst, so we'll update the tracker. Only 2 cards to slot in. So we did say there was a new franchise, the Aristocats, joining Disney Lorcana, and here we go. This is the first of a few cards that we saw. I know this is definitely a franchise that people have been asking for a long time. It's a franchise that we said we would love to see in our top 10 franchises to join the game. So here we go. Unfortunately, spoiler alert, these cards aren't all great, but we live in hope that we're going to see some better ones. But hey, let's start off with Thomas O'Malley, Feline Charmer, 3-cost inkable, 4/2 that quests for 1 with Ward. And yeah, personally, I'm not the biggest fan of this card. Ward is great, of course, but we have Prince Philip Royal Explorer, who is a 3/2 that quests for 2 with Ward. So I think Prince Philip is still maybe a better card.
And he's been seeing play, right?
And
Prince Philip has been seeing. So maybe people will put it there just for the extra strength. Yeah. I don't see why, but...
Yeah, but he is safe from a lot of removal, but so is Prince Philip, in my opinion. So yeah, hopefully we're going to see some really great Aristocat cards coming out. But we are going to move over to Berlioz, Mischievous Kitten, a 3-cost inkable, a 2/5 questing for 1. Vanilla, but actually 2/5 is quite good stats for a 3-cost character. He's going to take a little bit of damage in order to be removed.
Yes. I want to comment one thing, because I think you will see as we're looking at the cards. I think they are all inside ARCHAZIA'S house. All the dialogues on this and the other cards from the other kittens makes a reference to her. And you can see it is part of her house with the same scroll I mentioned. Yeah. Imagine if that forms a full art as well.
That would be beautiful.
Because there's like, I think 5 cards. We'll see it just now in a bit, but so excited.
Oh yeah, I'm just excited to see Aristocats. We've had so many dogs in the game.
I know, and we love dogs, don't get us wrong.
And joining her little kittens, we have Duchess, Elegant Feline, a 2-cost 3/2, questing for 1, Vanilla. Again, very difficult to say too much about this card. I think the stats are just okay, but hopefully we'll see a much better princess coming along. And then moving over to one of the other new franchises that are joining this set, we have another card, and as I mentioned for Lady, a nice shift target for the Floodborn Lady. This is Lady Elegant Spaniel, 1-cost, uninkable, 1/2 questing for 1. With the ability A Dog's Life, while you have a character named Tramp in play, this character gets +1 more. So on the surface, her stats may not be great, but when she's buffed up by Tramp, then it's making her a little bit of an aggro threat in that 1-cost slot. which is very cool. And of course, as a shift target for the Floodborn Lady. The good news is for Lady, we do have a tramp card, and again, another quite nice card. This is Tramp Enterprising Dog, 2-cost inkable, 1/3 that costs for 1. And he has 2 abilities. The first one is Hey Pidge. If you have a character named Lady in play, you pay 1 less to play this character. So if you're able to play Lady on 1 and then Tramp on 2, you've got a very nice ramp. You could then even play another 1-cost character.
And have 2 tramps.
Exactly. And he also has the ability, No Time for Wisecracks. When you play this character, chosen character of yours gets +1 strength this turn for each other character you have in play. I don't know how relevant that is. If you're playing him on curve, if you're playing Lady on 1 and then Tramp on 2, you're not really looking to have Lady challenge. It's more of an aggro thing. But perhaps this means that Tramp could exist in a different deck archetype as well. That's maybe a little bit more interested in that strength.
So that might be a question for the bag. Well, how does it work if I'm playing 2 trumps, as I said, in turn 2, and that's the second trump or the first trump? The plus is 1 of strength. What is the order of that event? So chosen characters of yours gets +1 this turn for each other character you have in play when you play this character.
Yeah, so I can't remember the official way it's explained, but effects like this with +1 stack. So it means that the chosen character would get the +1, and then if you played another tramp and targeted the same character, they would then get another +1. So if you had 3 characters, they get +3, and then when you play the next tramp, they would get another +4, which would give them 7 in total.
Okay.
I believe that's how it would work.
Interesting. That was down below because we might be wrong.
And it's funny you ask about that ability because we have the He's a Tramp action and song, a 1-cost inkable, which has exactly the same ability as Tramp has when you play him. Chosen character gets +1 this turn for each character you have in play. So yeah, the same basic thing. I'm not sure if we'll see much play out of this. I think you would rather probably just play Tramp.
Yeah.
And that'll do us for Emerald. So let's update the tracker with those. The dogs and the cats having to live in harmony in the tracker today. So over in Ruby, we just have 1 card. It's Edgar Balthazar, Ambitious Butler, a 5-cost inkable, 6/5, questing for 1 vanilla. And Matheus said if the Aristocats are inside of Archazia's tower, then Edgar is trying to get in to get them. Sense. So yeah, not much to say about this one. Same stats as Maui, minus the rush. So
is he a good card for sealed?
Yeah, he's got decent stats, right? He's got, he'd be hard to remove, but yeah, not much to say about the Ambitious Butler.
Let's put him in the tracker and let's go straight to Sapphire.
So Sapphire is where we see the remainder of our Aristocats. We're going to start off with Toulouse, Artistic Kitten, a 1-cost inkable, 1/3, questing for 1. A very normal stat line. I think we've seen this stat line a lot on characters, so maybe we'll see a nice Floodborn Toulouse. Or maybe we're going to see like a Floodborn Aristocats all together and you can play it on top of any of your Aristocats. That would be super cool. And then joining Toulouse, we have the third and final kitten. We have Marie, Favored Kitten, a 2-cost inkable, 1/2, questing for 2. With the ability, I'll show you, whenever this character quests, you may give a chosen character -2 strength this turn. Kind of like an ice block on a body, which is quite cool. Potentially gives some Sapphire decks a little bit more of early aggression, but while still kind of reducing the strength of characters. So yeah.
I think she's on Archazia's lap. I think that's Archasia. It does look very bulky though, but we'll find out.
Interesting.
The clothes look like.
So let's get them in the tracker. And then we will go over to the final cards for today, which are in steel. And we'll start off with Jafar, Aspiring Ruler, a 3-cost inkable, 3/2, questing for 2. With the ability, that's better. When you play this character, chosen character gains Challenger +2 this turn. So, you know, it's an okay ability, okay stat line. I think maybe in sealed could be quite a nice one to help you get some additional reach, but yeah, I'm not so sure.
Not much to say.
So next we're going to go over to Dr. Calico, Green-Eyed Man, a 4-cost inkable, 3/4 that quests for 1. With the ability, you're beginning to irk me. While this character has no damage, he gains resist +2, which actually is quite a cool ability that we haven't really seen before, the conditional resist. Similar, of course, to something like Pluto, who gets extra strength when he has no damage. This is a character that gets resist.
It's hard to make him get triggered in that sense, right? To get out of the resist
state.
So
you have to do a minimum of 3 damage in order to take the resist off him.
In one hit.
In one hit, which can be quite a challenge. Like steel decks, they won't be able to use like the Storm Rage on.
I actually like this card.
Yeah, so I think this is going to be a sleeper one. Probably a very good one for sealed as well. Just because he is a bit difficult to remove.
I overlooked that at first. I actually quite enjoyed that. And that's from both as well.
So Nice card. And then closing us off today, another Bolt card. I want more Bolt cards. 3 aren't enough. Give us more. This is Bolt Headstrong Dog, a 2-cost inkable 1/3 that quests for 1 with the ability There's No Turning Back. Whenever this character quests, if he has no damage, you may draw a card, then choose and discard a card. So we've seen these draw discard abilities in the game before. I think the right deck for them doesn't exist yet, but Bolt for sure is a good shift target for the Floodbomb Bolt. It will help you kind of maybe look for the cards you need to set up the combos you want to set up. So very cute and yeah, reasonable ability.
Should we put in the tracker?
Yeah, let's do it for one last time today. Let's update Steel. And then, if you want to find more reveals from more content creators, Disney Lorcana did share on their official Discord a full list of where all of those reveals are happening in North America, Europe, and all of the other regions that Lorcana is covered in. So you'll see a full link to all of the places, when it's happening, where it's happening. So check it out. We'll link it down in the description, but it's available here in the card reveal section of the official Disney Discord. Of course, don't forget our Discord. We're also over there on Discord, Inkborn Heroes. Again, link is down in the description. The community is growing every day, and it's always great during reveal season to talk about cards and to give our opinion.
Because we actually have 2 channels in our Discord. We have the card reviews channel, where literally as the card gets revealed, we share it everywhere, including Discord. And then after that, we have the review discussions, where the whole community that is part of our server discusses every single thing we're seeing.
And same, Amethyst, where else can people follow the reveals?
Instagram. Honestly, if you don't want to wait for our maybe bi-weekly or tri-weekly videos that we're showing for each card, we are, every time a card is revealed, literally 5 seconds later, it's over there. So come check us on Instagram at Inkborn Heroes.
Matheus gets more and more grey hair by the day trying to keep up with all the reveals, but
so much.
He does it.
But it's there. It's super cool, beautiful, big size. So come watch it, every single review, and give us a follow on Instagram.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, one final shout out to our YouTube members. We really, really, really appreciate you. So thank you so much. If you're interested in becoming a YouTube member, you can hit the join button down below and get all of the details. And once more, a huge shout out to the sponsors of this video, Heavy Play. Be sure to check out the link down in the description and use Ink110 at checkout to get 10% off your order.
Thank you so much for watching. We can't wait to see you again in the next video. And until then, happy questing!
Happy questing!